Hi there, welcome to this knowledge tutorial. It's looking at early Elizabethan England, which is in paper 2 of the GCSE History, and this is looking at the issue of Elizabethan exploration, and our focus with this tutorial is why did the Elizabethans want to explore. There'll be a further one looking at some of the exploration journeys like Drake, and also then the colonization of America by Raleigh. So let's just move on and examine the question a bit more in depth. There's a number of reasons why they wanted to explore, and I could imagine that this could be a kind of 12-mark question. So, looking at kind of consequences of, or certainly looking at the causes for it. So, first reason was trade. And to really understand this, you have to understand that Spain was making trading between England and the Netherlands and the rest of Europe a lot more difficult. Spain, a superpower in Europe at that time, basically was almost putting an embargo on England being able to trade with the Netherlands and the rest of Europe, Netherlands in particular for its wool industry. Now, because of that, England looked towards the Americas around about here and looked at the new resources that were available, the idea of crops and precious metals that were being said to be found there, and it made the English want to think about establishing colonies there, or at least exploring over there to establish links. The other big issue was that most of the Americas was undiscovered, and it meant there was a lot of opportunities. The Spanish were basically around the kind of Caribbean islands and down in South America. This northern area here really hadn't been colonized to any great extent, and so it offered an area that England would be able to kind of make its own. Another big reason was the triangle of trade, in essence slavery, and that's done by this diagram here. And the idea was that you could get goods, put them in a ship, sail them from England down to the west coast of Africa, trade them for slaves, and then send them to America, sell them there, and return back with the kind of materials and the resources that could be found in America that couldn't be found in England, and you could make huge profits from this. And John Hawkins was a significant key figure within this practice. A final reason, and it's less about trade, which these two are about, it's about adventure, and many rich men were tempted with the concept of adventure, and it was a mix of being able to make money for themselves and also glory and reputation. Another reason why they wanted to explore was because they felt better able to, and it was about this new technology in navigation, use of quadrants, astrolabes, and they were able to calculate a ship's position, and because of that you were able to navigate a lot more successfully. Also, we were seeing a lot of people mapping their journeys, and this would allow others to follow suit, so it wasn't going completely blind into these journeys. In a bit more depth, we see more accurate maps being developed, and one of these was called the Mercator map, and it had lines of longitude and latitude to a degree, and it allowed sailors to understand where they were. These were quite accurate. I won't say very accurate, but they were quite accurate, and these were copied, and because of developments like the printing press, you were able to produce maps, and once you had an accurate map you could copy it without having to kind of make mistakes in this. So it allowed others to make the same journeys. The final reason for why the Elizabethans wanted to explore was because they had better ships. Ships had become more stable, and because of that it meant that they could undertake a longer journey. Previous to that, they tended to hang around the kind of coast or make relatively shorter journeys. But I'm just going to get a red pen here. The bow, which is this section here, and then the stern, which is the back end, they'd been lowered, and it made them more stable in the kind of the ocean going journeys that they were now undertaking. Galleon ships had been developed, and these were larger than the traditional ships, and that meant you could carry more resources on them, and this was essential. If you were going to cross the Atlantic Ocean, you needed to be able to have significant numbers of resources, food and water supplies, etc., to be able to manage that journey. So the idea of having a better ship design, being more stable, larger ships, offered a more practical opportunity to cross. Another issue was a variety of sails now used, and we saw square sails, but also triangular sails, and the triangular sails would be kind of here, and you'd see the big square sails here. And it was that, square sails, they allowed greater speed. The triangular ones, you were then able to create a better steering on the ship. You also saw the development of more firepower on the ships, and this was to defend against the Spanish, and that's something we'll come on to later when we have a look at Spanish Armada and the reasons for its defeat. But English sailors were very, very practically skilled in using cannons on ships. Well, it's been a very, very short podcast. I hope it's been useful. If there's any comments or queries regarding this, please feel free to comment. I do pay attention to it, so thank you for listening.